Okay, good morning everyone. We will now discuss all about hyperbola. Okay, kindly tell me if you can see my screen. Can you see now my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
so our topic for this morning is the last connect section. It's the hyperbola. Let's define first what is a hyperbola. A hyperbola is again a set of points, just like circle, parabola, and ellipse. Those are set of points. But here, the absolute value of the difference of the distances, from two fixed points is a constant. Then the two fixed points are called foci. So unlike in the ellipse, the sum of the distances to your two fixed points is constant, but this time the absolute value of their difference is always distant. Is always constant rather. So throughout we denote 2c to define the distance between two foci. So the distance between two foci that you have is denoted by 2c. So the same thing, the C will be connected to your foci while your A will be for your vertices. So always bear in mind that 2C is always greater than 2A. So it will follow automatically that your C must be greater than A. Unlike in the ellipse, remember?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, Sid? Any concern, Sid? Ibaw?
Ah, sorry, sir.
Okay,
Bakla.
be mindful ha. If we are doing our class, always follow instruction. Okay, so always bear in mind in the ellipse, remember in the ellipse that A should be greater than B, right? And A should be greater than C as well. But in that is for the ellipse. But for the hyperbola, the C now is greater than A. Okay? And it is not necessary that your B is greater than A. It is not necessary in the hyperbola. So unsa lay timan Andre, all you have to remember is asa ang positive nga value sa inyong numerical coefficient, that will be the value for your A. Okay, so that you will see it. We have here a theorem all about a hyperbola wherein the center is at the origin. There are two there. So the first one is the picture of this will be, it will be something like this. Let me draw it so that you can see it. So if your focus 1 is at C0, here, C0, and your focus 2 is here, negative C0, then your vertex 1 must be here, and your vertex 2 must be here. Then you also have extremities, extremity 1 and extremity 2. So in this equation will describe those hyperbola that will look like this one. Let me use red. It will be something like this. The hyperbola that look like this. Again, the same thing. Your hyperbola will pass to your vertices. It means the vertices are points of your hyperbola. So always bear in mind, vertices are points of your hyperbola, but this time the extremities are not points of your hyperbola anymore. Just like in the ellipse, unlike in the ellipse rather, that in the ellipse it is included in your points. So unsaon day paghimo og hyperbola? In constructing the graph of your hyperbola, you should you should know the value of your you should know the value of your vertices and extremities. If you know your vertices and your extremities, you will draw an imaginary rectangle out of it. You will draw an imaginary rectangle out of it. After you draw an imaginary rectangle, you will draw a diagonal out of your rectangle. And that will serve as your asymptotes. These are called asymptotes. Na-discuss naman na sa inyong general mathematics ang asymptote, no? A line
Yes,
wherein
sir.
your graph will get
Yes,
closer
sir.
and closer to. So in this case, your diagonal will serve as your asymptote. It means your graph later will get closer and closer to that line. And again, so it will pass to your vertices and it will be asymptotic to that line. So it will look like this. Okay? It will get closer and closer to that line and closer to that line. So pasabot class, if you want to graph your hyperbola, kinahanglan you should have your extremities and vertices. Again, you draw an imaginary rectangle, then you draw a diagonal to serve as your asymptote, then you can now construct or create or sketch your hyperbola. In this case, your hyperbola looks like this. By the way, we will not be using now major axis and minor axis. The axis that passes through your foci rather, and vertices is called the transverse axis. Transverse axis. While the axis that passes through your extremity will be called the conjugate axis. While in the hyperbola, if we compare it to the hyperbola, the axis that passes through your vertices and foci is called the major axis, while the axis that passes through your extremities or endpoints of your minor axis is called the minor axis. Okay, so that's it. And the equation for that will be given by this. Okay, always bear in mind, class, kung asa ang positive nga value, kay negative man nino kini positive, naa kang x man nino, denominator of x, it means your major your transverse axis rather is along the x axis. Clear? But if it will look like this, okay, how about your equation will be this one. So it will be given, the graph will look like this one. If your focus 1 is at 0C, say for example here, focus 1. Your focus 2 is 0, negative C. So it means somewhere here is your vertex 2, here is your vertex 1. Your extremity 1 and your extremity 2. Again, to construct your hyperbola, you will be creating an imaginary rectangle that passes through your extremities and your vertices. Then after that, you draw an imaginary line, diagonal line, and that will be your line of asymptote. Okay, so also in the other side, again, your hyperbola must be a set of points that passes through your vertices rather, and is it asymptotic to that line, so it will look like this. Okay, and the other one will be this one. So if you look at here, class, if you look at this one, tanaw ninyo ni, remember the denominator of y is a, right? The positive portion is for the y. That's why your transverse axis is along the y-axis. Anara ka sayon pag-determine. Okay? Unlike kaganina, ang iyahang positive is along x. That's why your transverse axis is along x. Clear? Clear ba, class? Any questions so far before we proceed? Any questions? I want to hear from you. Erica, I'm making things clear. Erica, Shane, Kagab-Kab. Am I making things clear?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So clear na ha? So I will I will now proceed to the next part. So there are theorems for us to remember. So let's start with this theorem. The same in ellipse, there are 4 theorems to remember. We only have 4 also for, I think we also have 4 for parabola, right? 4 for parabola, 4 for ellipse, and 4 for hyperbola. So here, this is the theorem. Okay, let me zoom it out para makita nyo klaro. This is the theorem that we will be using if this is the equation of your hyperbola. So it must be a hyperbola wherein the center is at 0, 0, or the origin. The vertices are positive and negative a0, and the foci will be plus minus c0. The endpoints will be endpoints of extreme conjugate axis rather are 0, comma, plus or minus b. The transverse axis is along x-axis, and here, by the way, class, for the hyperbola, your extremity, still c over a, must be greater than 1. What do you remember for the ellipse? Kung sa extremity sa ellipse, class?
Less than one.
A over A pero less than 1,
Less
sir.
than
Less
1,
than 1.
sir.
In the hyperbola, the extremity c over a must be greater than 1. Okay? Sa parabola, sa extremity ni parabola,
Equal 1, sir.
okay, sa
Equal
parabola, the extremity e must be equal to 1. Sa ellipse, the extremity e should be less than 1. For the hyperbola, the extremity e should be greater than 1. How about for circle? The extremity should be equal to 0.
0.
So you remember this 4. So now we are in hyperbola. So bear in mind to check whether you get the correct value for C and A. You look for the extremity. If that is greater than 0, then you got it correctly. Then again, bear in mind that extremity will tell us how flat is our graph. How flat is our hyperbola. Okay? Flatness of your graph. Extremities. Okay. Eccentricity rather, not extremities. Eccentricity. So, the asymptote will be given by this, and I think you know how to plot it already. You just have to use your vertices and extremities, endpoints of your conjugate axis. And that will be your asymptote. Okay? No need to discuss that further. And this is the theorem. This one will be the theorem that we're gonna be using if your equation is this one. Okay? The other way around. Anyway, I already sent it to your group chat so that you can look for these theorems. Let us have the other one. Aton lang diretsoon. Let us have the next one. I think this one. There are also cases wherein your center is not at the origin. So the same thing, you just have to remember the following theorems. The first theorem is this. This is the hyperbola wherein your center is at HK. Okay? And its transverse axis is parallel to the x-axis. Ingon ani ang iyang situation, class. Example, ingon ani inyong x-axis. And your focus 1 is somewhere here. Your focus 2 is somewhere here. Then your vertex is here. Vertex 2, vertex 1, extremity 1, extremity 2. So if you will draw a line or a rectangle there, then you will draw an imaginary line to be your asymptotic line. Then your graph will look like this. Okay? It will look like this. As you can see now, class, that your center is somewhere here, right? This is your center. This is not in the origin anymore. So if this will happen, this case will happen, you will be using this theorem. Okay? You will be using that one. So I think we will not spend enough time for that. And the other theorem that we will have is this theorem. The other one, wait. The other formula that we theorem that we will have is, I think wala na nabutang sa screen sa akong picture ng gihatag. The other formula will be, if you have x minus h quantity squared all over a squared minus y minus k quantity squared over b squared equal to 1. Katong giingon akong gi-graph kaganina. Pero kung along y ang imong transverse axis, it will be given by y minus k quantity squared all over a squared minus x minus h squared over b squared equal to 1. I think this one, you know? And the theorem that you will be using are these properties that you will be applying for it. So, kani if parallel to your x-axis ang transverse axis, and this one if the transverse axis is parallel to your y-axis. Okay? Let us have one example so that you can understand ang saan na to sila paggamit. Let us have one. Okay, let me stop sharing first. Maybe we will transfer to the whiteboard because I want you to participate as well. Can you see the whiteboard now, class?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let us have
Yes,
one
sir.
example. Say for example, we have this one. Say for example, I give you this equation, then you are asked to graph. Ano sa taha? Then later properties, then you find the equation. Matani una. For a while. Okay, this one. Say for example, you are given with 9x squared minus 16y squared equal to 144. Then you are asked to sketch the graph of that equation. So what you will be doing is, it's either you rewrite it of the form x squared over a squared minus y squared over b squared equal to 1, or y squared over a squared minus x squared over b squared equal to 1. Kini ra gyud imong gamiton kay dili man na katong anay mga h ug k kay simple raman nga equation, right? Kaya naman mo putoy duha, di ba? Katong x minus h quantity squared over a squared minus y minus k quantity squared over b squared equal to 1. And the other one is y minus k quantity squared over a squared minus x minus h squared over b squared equal to 1. So there are 4 that we want to select. But I think this 2 will not be used anymore, right? So you have 2 options. It's either this one or this one. So the very first thing that you will do is to make your right side equal to 1. So sa himuon na para ma-1 ang right side, plus.
Divide by 144 both sides.
So you divide by 144 both sides of the equation. Okay. If you do that one, what will be the result? So what is 9 divided by 144? Anyone?
16, sir.
16. So it becomes 1 over 16 here, right? So it will be x squared over 16. Agree?
Yes, sir.
While here, what is 16 over 144?
9.
9.
9. So it will become 1 over 9. So it will be y squared over 9. Right? And in the right side is 1. So we're almost there. So tanaw na to. Unsa ka ni? Ang first ba or ang second? Si paminaw ninyo. Asa ang positive? Sa x ba or sa y? Asa ang positive? Naasa x. So obviously you will rewrite into this form, right? It will never be this because x here is negative but x here is positive. So you need to use this one. But again, you can rewrite this as x squared over 4 squared, right? Because 16 is 4 squared minus y squared over 3 squared. Agree? So now,
Yes, sir.
after that, we are now able to determine the value of A. Makuha ba na to ang A? By looking at here, your A is 4. Right? So you will know that your A is 4. Sa pa yung makuha na to?
B
B.
ug C.
B.
sir.
Your B
B, sir.
is
3.
equal
Three.
to 3. Now, kung sa gani formula ang combination relationship ni A, B, and C sa ellipse, do you still
B
remember
squared
it?
is equal to C squared minus A squared.
So, in the ellipse, you have B squared is equal to ellipse sa taha, ellipse A squared minus C squared. Sa ellipse ni, di ba? Sa ellipse.
Yes, sir.
Pero sa hyperbola class is different. Sa hyperbola, the formula that we will be using is B squared is equal to C squared minus A squared. Got it? Wala di mo malibog. Lahi ang formula nga gigamit kang ellipse sa relationship ni B, A, and C. Lahi pod kang hyperbola. Okay? Klaro? Uy, klaro ba?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Are you ready? Can we continue? Can we continue?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Continue,
So,
sir.
what we will be doing now, class, is to solve for C. Of course, we will be using this formula. So, in finding C, your B is 4. Take the square, that will be 16. Right? B squared. Your C is 3. Take the square, that is 9. Minus A. No. Yes, sakto. Diday. C squared man dito, no? B
Yes,
squared.
sir.
B squared today for a while. B squared. So your 3 squared is 9. Agree? Your C squared. Your C is unknown, right? Your A squared, that will be 16. Okay? If you transfer that to the other side, it becomes 9 plus 16 equal to C squared. It becomes, ilan eh?
25.
25 equal to C squared. So it will follow that your C will be plus or minus 5. Right? Okay. So we already have your A, B, and C. So gamit anak nila. By using the theorem mentioned a while ago, aha daw iyang center ani? Center? I think I already send the theorem ahead of time a while ago sa inyo, ha? So that you can study it. So your center here is at 0, 0.
0.
Okay.
Origin.
Since along x ang iyahang transverse axis, so your vertex should be plus or minus A0, right? Agree? Kung sa atong A? A.
4. 4, sir.
So the
4.
vertices
4.
are, vertex 1 is 4, 0.
4.
The vertex 2 must be negative
-4.
40. Okay? How about your foci? It should be plus or minus c, right? What is your c?
5.
5.
Positive 5.
So 50, and your focus 2 should be negative 50.
Negative 5. 0.
So endpoints of your conjugate axis, endpoints. Kinahanglan na ba nino ang endpoints of the of your conjugate axis? It should be 0 plus or minus of your b. And what is your b?
3.
3.
So in this case, it will be e sub 1 will be 0, 3, and e sub 2 should be 0, negative 3. And you know what, class? If you know your vertices, these two, and your extremities or endpoints of your conjugate axis, you will be able to graph your hyperbola. Okay? No, marami kinahanglan, class, no? So, unahon na to at sa nang i-plot para makita na to saan siya pag-plot. Okay. Let us draw here a real number line or a Cartesian coordinate plane rather. Cartesian coordinate plane. This is for x-axis, this is for y. Let us plot first our vertices. 40, maybe somewhere here. Vertex 1, that is 40. The other side will be negative 40, and that is your vertex 2. Okay? So let's count here. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So while your focus 1 must be somewhere here. See it? So this is your focus 1. This is for 5. Your focus 2 is somewhere here. Okay? Your endpoints of conjugate axis 0, 3. So 1, 2, 3. This is your E sub 1. Your E sub 2 must be here. Okay? Mas gani himuon, class, pag himo sa hyperbola. If you know this E and vertices, sa himuon.
Excuse me, sir.
To draw
May
a rectangle.
annotate.
Imaginary
Annotate, sir.
rectangle.
Yes.
Atong
Unsa.
Rectangle, sir.
Yes.
Mag-annotate to, sir.
So, unya na, Jetro. Later na, in the example, ha? So, I will be giving you chance later, okay? So, what you will be doing is, you are going to draw a rectangle. Here, right? Imaginary rectangle that passes through your extremities and vertices. Okay? Then after that, you will be you will be constructing your asymptotic line. The diagonal line, your diagonal line that will serve your asymptotic line. And then here, in the other side as well. Dira mo duol ang inyong hyperbola unya, no? So in that case, your hyperbola will look like this. It passes to this vertex. It will get closer and closer to this line. So it will look like this. And this portion. Also in the other side, it will pass to this point, going there. And in the other side. Okay? Is it clear, class? Claro?
Yes, sir.
So that is now the hyperbola
Yes, sir.
9y squared minus 16 and 9x squared rather 9x squared minus 16y squared equal to 144. Any questions? Any questions? No question? This time I want you to try this one. Let me get example from our exercises. I already sent the exercises in your group chat, so kindly try to practice for it. So let us have this one. How about you are given with 25, change it to black, 25 x squared plus 16y squared equal to 400. Okay, I will be asking student to do the very first step. Okay? Are you ready? Are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay, can
Yes,
I
sir.
ask for the first step? Can I ask, it's pa may wala na to nga tawag diri. Kershi Ali. Ali, what should be the first step that we will be doing here? Feel free to unmute your microphone. Okay, good.
Ano, sir? Find the katong sundon ni mga formula, sir. Katong x tas koan.
So katong upat, either atong upat, no? So unsay
Yes,
himuon
yes,
ato
sir.
para may rewrite into that form. So what should be the very first step?
You find each ano, sir, value atong katong nga formula
So
sa variables ato ano.
okay. So naay madagdag si Rika Polinar, unsay himuon Rika? Unsay una himuon? Thank you Miss Ali. Rika, na kay madagdag unsay una nga himuon? Polinar, Rika. Yes. Murag di matingog malunggan imong tingog Rika. Okay, let's go back with Rika later. So naay nag-raise hand. So who are these students? Yes, Janil Magsayo. What should be the first step, Janil?
Cancer, i-divide nimo ang both sides by 400.
Yes, you divide both sides by 400 so that you can make the right side equal to 1, right? So you kindly do it. Miss Magsayo, can you try to annotate so that you can also try to navigate here in Zoom? Yes, Magsayo, Miss Magsayo, here. Can you write or dili? Maglisod? Sige, ako na lang. So tiin na lang kung sa inyong himuon. So kani gihimo Miss Magsayo, no, you will be dividing by 400. Okay, next. What should be the next part? Yes, Marv, Mag-abo. What should be the result for this?
The result, sir, kay x squared over 16 because 400 divided by 25. So, mahima na siyang 16, sir, then minus y squared over 25 because 400 divided by
By the way, class, ayun lang Marv, nasayop di ko, this is minus. Sayop ang pagkasulat. This must be minus. Okay, ellipse man din ano. Yes, continue Marv.
minus y squared over 25, sir, kay divide ang 400 sa 16 equals
Yes,
1.
1. Very good. That's correct. And what should be the next step? Yes, Dennis. What should be the next step, Dennis? Pascobilio.
Sir, makita natong squared sa 16, sir, which is 4. Dayon
Yes.
sa B, sir, 25 is 5.
Very good.
Equals 1 din, sir.
So, unsay makuha nato anak karon after you rewrite that? Very good, Dennis. What should we get out of it?
A and B, sir.
Yes, the A and B. Yes, Isha, what is your A, Isha? Isha, are you raising your hand?
4, sir, and ang B kay 5.
A is 4 and our B is 5. Now, let me ask you this one. This is very important. Asa ang inyong transverse axis? Along the x-axis or along the y-axis?
X, sir.
Along x. Anong x man, Jetro? Correct.
Because positive ang X
Yes,
niya.
positive man ang x,
Tapos-
di ba? Very good. That's it. Because this is positive. So it must be along x. So inyong picture, ana, diri ang inyong transverse axis. Naadira ang inyong foci and vertices. Right? Okay. Before that, let us determine. Kasi wala na-determine na to. Saan letter? Wala na-determine.
C, sir.
Ang
Ang
C.
letter C, sir.
Kung say formula nga gamiton, Hana, in finding the C.
A plus B, sir.
B squared
equals to C squared minus A squared.
Very good. It should be B squared is equal to C squared minus A squared. Now, what is your B?
5.
5. If you take the square, it becomes 25. Right? Your C is unknown, so you copy C minus your A is 4, it becomes 16. Right?
16.
If you transfer that to the other side, it becomes 25 plus 16 equal to C squared. Right? So it means it will be 41 equal to C squared. Joke to A. Okay, and after that, you take the square root. It will be positive or negative square root of 41 equal to C. And we know that 41 is not a perfect square. And I think we cannot find factor of 41 which is not a perfect square, right? So we will use square root of 41 as the value of C. Okay? Klaro na class? So your C is square root of 41. Question before we proceed?
Sir, pwede mo tanong, sir.
Yes.
Kana, pali sa A, sir, ba kay lahi din siya sa ellipse, sir, kay di ba kung unsay dako
Yes. Muna akong giingon ganina, Mar, basta sa ellipse, asa yung mas dako mo ay A. Dili ang dako tanawon, ang posisyon. O asa ang positive mo ito imong A. Clear? O muna ibantayanan between ellipse and hyperbola. Sa ellipse, ang tanaw nimo asa yung mas dako, mutong ang A. Pero in the hyperbola, kung asa ang positive, mauna ang imuhang A. Clear? Is it clear, Marv?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, good. Okay, so if we will now graph, determine sa din nato ang mga parts. Let us determine the parts. Let us have the center. Who can give me the center?
0,
0, 0.
0, 0. Or the origin. How about the vertices? Okay, along X man, so it should be plus or minus
4.
A, right? 4. Very good. 4. So the two values of your vertices are, two vertices that you have are 4, 0 and
Negative 4.
Negative 4.
Okay, how about your foci?
Positive, negative.
Positive,
Negative 5.
square root of 41 of negative 41.
5 or square root of 41?
Square root of 41, sir.
Square root of 41. Kaya unsa gani ng F, sa iyang na-associate sa iya ang
C.
C. Always bear in mind, C magkauban na kang foci. Si A magkauban na kang vertices. Si B magkauban kang extremities. Right? So in this case, it must be square root plus or minus square root of 41, 0. So the two foci that you have, foci that you have are focus 1, square root of 41, 0, and the focus 2, negative square root of 41, 0. Pila ng square root of 41, class? Approximately
6.4.
6.4.
6.40.
How about for the extremities or endpoints of your conjugate axis?
5, 0, and positive, negative. 5, sir.
0,
0,
plus or minus.
positive, negative.
Very good. So the extremity 1 will be 0,
0,
5.
5.
And your extremity 2 will be 0, negative. Okay? Can we continue? So, i-unmute sa balik. Okay. Let me erase this portion so that we can use it in plotting the points. Unsay kinahanglan gani so that we can plot our our hyperbola? What are the points that we need to have? Sige nahanglan. Sino kayo numdum?
Vertices o ganang end of
Vertex.
Yes,
Vertices,
the
foci,
vertices
extremities.
and endpoints of
Extremities.
your conjugate axis, no? Or the extremities. So let us have it. Oops. Here kayo. So we have it here. So let us plot first our vertices, the 4, 0. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, negative 4, 0. So these are your vertices. Vertex 1, vertex 2. Isa pa, your focus. Foci. Okay? In your foci, so we have here square root of 4, 41, 0. Ano na square root of 41? That is
Nasa
5,
6, sir.
Between sa 6
Sir.
ug 7, sir.
6, 7.
6,
Somewhere
7.
here.
Pero pabor pa siya sa 6. Sir.
Yes, sir.
Dool pa sa 6, no? Kay 0.4 man.
Mm-mm.
So 5, 6, 7. So somewhere here. So those are, this is your focus 1. This is your focus 2. While your extremities 5, 0, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Your extremity 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Somewhere here. So mo na ato ang extremity 1 and extremity 2. By the way, class, unsay tawag ani nga axis, class? Diri?
Transverse, sir.
Transverse
Axis.
How about this
Transversal
axis? Unsay tawag ani?
Conjugate
Conjugate.
axis. Conjugate, sir.
Conjugate axis. Unsay himuon para ma-determine ang line of asymptote?
Katong imaginary.
Draw a imaginary
Draw ka rectangle, sir.
Yes, you will draw an
Vertices
imaginary
of
rectangle.
extremities.
Very good. An imaginary rectangle that passes to your vertices and extremities. So it will look like this, right? Now, then after that, we will draw a diagonal line. Diagonal that passes to the center and the corner of your rectangle, as well as here. So it will look like this. So that green line will be your asymptote. Okay. Now, gani mo agi inyuhang hyperbola? Usa nga point iyang maagian? Ang
Vertex.
vertices. So it will be asymptotic to that green line, so it will look like this. It will get closer and closer to that line, as well as here. Also here, it will get closer and closer to that line. So in the other side. Okay? In blue, that is your hyperbola. Any questions? Pangutana? Wala?
Sir, broken line na color blue, sir, or kanang solid na
Solid
line, sir?
siya, kaya maura na siya ang part sa inyong hyperbola. Solid.
Okay, sir. Thank you,
Ang
sir.
uban broken, kay those are not included in your solution set. Okay? Any questions? No questions? Okay. Let us have one more. One more. Kanang center nga dili sa origin. And by the way, the other kind of problems will be discussed next meeting. Katong the other way around. Tagaan mo properties, then you will be looking for the equation. Okay? That will be on Tuesday. That will be a discussion on Tuesday. Okay, how about I will give you this one. I'll give you the equation that you will have is 3x squared minus 2y squared plus 6x minus 8y minus 17 equal to 0. Okay? Nindot nino? Okay. Obviously, makita ganin ninyo ni class kana siya o kana either sa ilang duha. So it's either katong kini nga equation, kini nga standard form ang gamiton. This 1 equal to 1. And then for a while. Okay, for a while, class, for a while. So the other one is this one. Y minus k quantity squared over a squared minus x minus h quantity squared b squared equal to 1. Okay? So it's either of the two ang gamiton. So the very first thing, sayo naman kayo na i-determine tingali. No? Kaya ito sa i-rewrite, parihara sa ellipse. What you will be doing, class, is katong na yung mga x term, you combine them as 1. So it will be written as 3x squared plus 6x as one group. The other group will be the negative 2y squared minus 8y. Okay? And the constant should be transferred to the other side. So it becomes positive 17. Okay, now, what should be the next step? So sunod himuon niya clear.
I-factor siya, sir.
Very good. Here, unsa ang i-factor diri, class? Unsa i-factor diri?
3, then sir, x squared plus 2x.
Very good. Sa ato lang butang space kaya ato ni complete later. In the other side, you factor out negative 2, right? So it becomes y squared plus 4y. Agree? And it will be equal to 17. So you want this to be a perfect square. Okay. So what you will be doing is, you will, say i-add diri, class. Say i-add.
1.
1, sir.
Add 1.
Answer.
Actually, you are adding here 3 because you multiply 3 here. So you plus 3 here. In the other side, say i-add diri nga portion.
4.
And actually, you are
4.
adding minus 8, right?
Yes, sir.
Negative 8. So it becomes now, it will be now 3x plus 1 squared minus 2y plus 2 squared equal to, pila ni?
12.
12. Okay? And we are almost there, but you need to make the right side equal to 1. So what you will do is you divide both sides by 12. Okay? And after that, what will happen is, nindot ni siya. What will happen is, you are going to simplify it. Okay, unsay mahitabo ani, class? Unsa kay mahitabo? What is 3 divided by 12?
4.
1/4.
4, sir.
1/4.
X.
So it will be x minus 1 raised to the power of 2 all over 4.
4.
Right? Well, the other side, it becomes 6, no? 1/6. So minus 2y. It will be y minus 2 squared over 6 equal to 1. Agree? Agree?
Ay,
So,
sir, kanang 2, sir, ba?
yes.
two.
Ah?
Nang 2, sir. Sa kanang 2y minus...
No,
Wala na ng 2, sir. 1 na, di ba, sir? So, dili na siya.
Ay, wala na ito. Tama, tama. Wala na siya. Kaya nakuha naman na sa 6. Correct, correct. Nabutang din akong 2. Wala na ng 2. Correct. So, after that, our problem is here. Wala problema ng 4 kay perfect square man ano? Wala problema ni. That can be written as 2 squared. Right? But the problem is 6. How can you write that 6 into a perfect square?
Square root of 6 quantity squared, sir.
Yes, very good. It can be written as square root of 6 quantity squared. Right? So it is clear that your A is 2. Okay? Your B is square root of 6. Got it? So saan pagkuha si C? Kung saan pagkuha si C? So ganito formula nga gamiton?
B squared.
B squared is equal to A squared times
C squared
minus A
Very
squared.
good. What is your B squared?
Square root of
Square root of 6
Square root of
quantity
6
squared,
squared.
sir.
So what is your B squared?
6, sir.
6.
6, sir.
Very good. Because the square root of this is just 6. What is your C squared?
May 6, sir.
Ano? So yung kopyahon lang na siya.
Squared lang siya.
What is your A squared?
4, sir.
4.
4.
If you transfer that to the other side, it becomes 10 equal to
10.
C squared, right? So
Yes,
your
sir.
C
Square
should
root
be
of 10.
plus or minus square root of 10. Agree?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. Aside from that, what is your H?
-1, sir.
Negative.
Negative 1.
What is your K?
Negative 2, sir.
Negative 2. And what you will be doing next is you have to follow the theorem that I gave you in determining the parts of it. And again, ang importante, you should know what is your vertex, what are the vertices, and what are the extremities, so that you can draw an imaginary line, imaginary rectangle rather, to construct your asymptotes. Then you can sketch the graph. Your task, class, is this. You are going to complete the graph of it, okay? Then after you complete it, you post your answer in your Google Classroom. I will be creating a classwork later. I-post ninyo ang answer sa inyong Google Classroom. Clear? Okay. That's it. Let me stop it.